Good afternoon. I will also take the stand here because it's easier. I want to use some documents while speaking to you. And so that is easier than when you have to manipulate documents there sitting. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, thank you to the organizers for inviting me to this important conference. And greetings on behalf of the International Association of Democratic Lawyers. Yeah, so first of all, thank you for inviting me. Greetings on behalf of the International Association of Democratic Lawyers, of which both Fabio Marcelli and myself are bureau members. It's one of the oldest organizations of lawyers involved in the struggle and in supporting the struggle of people for self-determination. And so Palestine has been on our program even, I would say, before the State of Israel existed, because the association was founded in '46, before the State of Israel. I would like to start, actually my speech, I will try to share some thoughts with you, because the time is limited, of course, on the question, what can we expect from international law for the Palestinian people, and what can we not expect from international law? And I think that is, we have to be clear on that before we can decide on which type of action we would like to take. While the situation on the ground of the Palestinian people has, as far as I'm concerned, never been as bad as today, in the sense that the crimes that are committed against the Palestinian people are the worst of, I think, the whole history of the struggle of Palestine. The genocide that is now ongoing is of an amplitude which is much bigger, I think, even than the Nakba. At the same time, while we are facing this terrible situation on the ground, these atrocious crimes, at the same time, I think the legal situation of the Palestinians has never been better than today. And I would like to and that might seem contradictory at first sight, but I don't think it's contradictory. The legal situation is better because a whole series of events and a whole series of very important things happened in the field of international law in favor of the Palestinians in, I would say, less than a year. And I would refer specifically to three things. One is, of course, the order of the International Criminal Court of 26th of January, after the extraordinary action taken by South Africa, the order in which the International Court of Justice, the World Court, the Court of the United Nations, says that there is plausible cause that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. And I think I will get back to why I think that is important in a moment. And in the meanwhile, as you know, many countries, including European countries like Spain, have joined South Africa in that initiative, which means that there is an important movement there. The second thing, which is probably even more important, is the advisory opinion that was issued by the International Court of Justice, the same International Court of Justice, on 19th of July, and which gives an absolutely extraordinary analysis of all the illegalities and all the violations of international law committed by Israel. And the third thing, which I think is really is not sufficiently put forward up until now, is the resolution adopted by the General Assembly of the United Nations on the 13th of September, and I will get back to that in detail in a moment, because I think it's a very, very, very important resolution based on the advisory opinion of the court. And we will see that in that resolution, all the important crimes committed by Israel, occupation, aggression, apartheid, all of them are there, and also all what needs to be done to stop that is there in the resolution of the United Nations. As you know, it was adopted by a very big majority. 124 countries voted for the resolution, 14 only against, and 43 countries abstained. And apart from the fact that we can say after such a vote, who is isolated? Is it Israel or is it the Palestinians? For me, the answer is very clear. It's Israel which is isolated in the world. We can also see that several European countries which traditionally belong to the front of support to Israel, which traditionally belong to this I would say, shield of protecting Israel against the actions of international legal bodies, voted in favor of this resolution, including Belgium. And I'm, of course, very proud that Belgium also voted for this resolution. So we have an unprecedented legal framework and unprecedented crimes which are happening at the same time against the Palestinian people. Now, what can we not expect from international law? Law in general, and especially criminal law, generally acts or intervenes or produces effects after crimes have been committed. And so, of course, in a traditional discourse on criminal law, there is always some talking about the preventive aspect of criminal law. While the threat of a punishment should withhold some of committing crimes. Of course, in international law, that preventive effect of international law is, as far as I'm concerned, very low. First of all, because international law is by definition extremely political. And secondly, because there are very few mechanisms, enforcement mechanisms for international law. There's the Security Council, but which is, of course, completely politicized. There is the International Court of Justice, which now is, I would say, speeding up its action in favor of the Palestinian people. There is the International Criminal Court, and we will see where that will go, because I'm skeptical about the fact that the International Criminal Court will go very far, and very marginally national courts from other countries can also intervene as an enforcement mechanism for international. Which means that we have to admit and to accept and to work with that respect for international law is above all a matter of balance of power, balance of force on the ground. And saying that, it means that the main enforcement mechanism for international law is not the International Criminal Court or the International Court of Justice. The main enforcement mechanism for international law are the people of the world and their actions to force respect for international law. And I think we have to be very much aware of that when we define our program of action. It is the people of the world who are the main enforcement mechanism for international law. The decisions of the International Court of Justice and the resolution of the General Assembly, which we now have in our hands as instruments to work, are the result of these actions. They are the result of the massive international actions against the genocide in Gaza. They are the result of the solidarity that has been expressed, and they are, of course, the result of the struggle of the Palestinian people itself. And at the same time, these decisions, these instruments of international law created by these bodies are instruments which we can use in our turn to reinforce the solidarity mechanism and to bring that forward. The fact that international law is not as such a guarantee to assure the rights of the people, on the other hand, should not stop us from using international law. Because I said a few words about the weaknesses of international law and the problems we have, but on the other hand, I think international law and the products of international law, like the decision of the International Court of Justice, like the resolution of the General Assembly, which is an instrument of international law, always also give us a extraordinary instrument to develop our action in favor of the Palestinian people. International law is not insignificant because the enforcement mechanisms are not, like the Security Council, are not at this time acting to enforce it. First of all, it's of course, I already touched upon that previously, it is the struggle on the ground that pushes law and legal mechanisms forward. It's not the other way around. Law does not create the struggles create law. And that is what we see now, what is happening now, with, amongst other things, the resolution of the General Assembly. And law, and especially decisions like the ones of the International Court of Justice and the resolution of the General Assembly, bring an incredible amount of legitimacy to the struggle against aggression and the occupation. They legitimize our actions. They legitimize the resistance of the Palestinian people. And in that way, they are anyhow forcible and strong instruments which we should seize to reinforce our action. If law would be insignificant, if international law would be nothing, just something to some, I would say, decoration, then why would states, including Israel, make such efforts to every time again justify what they are doing in the light of international law? Why would Israel say, but it's self-defense under the UN Charter, if the UN Charter had no significance at all? So law gives legitimacy, and decisions like the one of the International Criminal Court, about the International Court of Justice, give legitimacy. So I think that the implementation, the effective implementation of international law is a field of struggle which we, the people, and the organizations representing the people must seize. And it's through that mechanism that we can force our states, because it's not enough to demand, we have to force our states to implement the international law and to act in conformity of the international law. The impunity of Israel is, of course, shocking. But instead of complaining about the impunity, and, or more politely said, instead of limiting ourselves to denounce the impunity, we have to act to stop it. That is, I think, essential. We must organize actions, we must take concrete action to stop that impunity, because if we don't do it, our governments won't do it. Our governments are not going to do it spontaneously. And the actions, I think, of course, the whole actions for sanctions are very important. And the resolution of the General Assembly, which is, I think, for the first time in history, actually, it says that it demands states, calls upon states to act. But then at the same time, one can say, yeah, demanding is free. You can ask something and then if they don't do it. At the same time, in the same paragraph, the resolution says that they demand to act to comply with the obligation to stop violations of international law. So it's not only a demand, it's also an emphasis that it's an obligation for states to do this. And we can't go in detail through it because my time is almost finished, but if you go through the resolution, if you go through the resolution, absolutely everything is there. The occupation should end and all states should contribute to the end of the occupation. The Palestinians should have the right to self-determination and all states should act in compliance with the right to self-determination. The states should stop, it's in the resolution, states should stop immediately to provide arms. And the resolution says because arms anyhow, that's my time which is up. Arms, the resolution doesn't even say you need to stop giving arms that will contribute to the war. No, it says arms will anyhow contribute to the war. And so you should stop all arms deliveries. The sanctions, says the resolution, are an obligation. And also, and I think that's important in the question for impunity, the resolution says that the actions of Israel are a serious threat to peace and to international security, and that the crimes committed by Israel, and the resolution refers to the crime of apartheid, to the crime of genocide, to the war crimes, to the crimes against humanity, says should be prosecuted. And it's an obligation upon all states to prosecute such crimes. I think this resolution with this content, which is, I think for the first time that even the General Assembly of the United Nations takes a resolution which is so strong, so precise, and which is actually a very precise action program to enforce international law in relation to Israel. And so I would like to conclude by saying we can act to force our states to act according to what the General Assembly said is an obligation under international law. We can reinforce our actions to impose sanctions, and especially on the weapons. We can use all the mechanisms of criminal law which are available, the International Criminal Court, but also our national courts, in cases of binationals, for example, who are fighting in the Israeli army and committing crimes in the Israeli army, and should be prosecuted by the national courts of the European countries. We can help the Palestinian organizations, human rights organizations, to build up again their capacity, because one of the first things Israel has done when it attacked Gaza was attack the offices of the Palestinian Council for Human Rights, which was documenting in all previous wars, which was documenting the crimes from minute to minute. It's one of the first things that was bombed, the offices of PCHR, and they tried twice to kill Raji Sourani, our friend Raji Sourani, who is also a member of the bureau of our association, the director of PCHR. They tried twice to kill him to stop the work of documenting the crimes, because any process of accountability, of course, starts with collecting evidence. There is no other possibility. We have to work for the expulsion of Israel of the United Nations. We have to respond positively to the appeal launched today by the democratic lawyers of Lebanon to compose commissions of inquiry that go on the ground, official and citizen commissions of inquiry to investigate the crimes of Israel. And we should put all our energy and creativity in this kind of initiatives to put an end to impunity, because we are the enforcement mechanism that can impose on our governments and on international institutions the balance of power that is necessary to put an end to impunity and to assure at last the right to self-determination of the Palestinian people. And I think the situation on the ground, as I said, and I conclude with that, is terrible. The Palestinian people and now also the Lebanese people are paying a price which is unbelievable. And at the same time, the solidarity is moving forward. International support and international law is moving forward. And we should all use all these achievements to legitimize our struggle, to legitimize the struggle of the Palestinian people, and to take that forward. Thank you.